Imagine waking up tomorrow, going to the supermarket, buying bread, milk, medicine, maybe a smartphone. Now imagine that one invisible network quietly makes money from almost every single purchase. Not because it owns the stores, not because it makes every product, but because it controls something even more valuable: access, competition, and who gets to play the game. This isn't a secret society. It isn't hidden underground. Its offices sit in some of the most expensive buildings on Earth. Its executives appear on television. Governments know it exists. Investors celebrate it. Yet most people have no idea how much influence it really has. This is the story of a business empire worth more than $100 billion. An industry so powerful that entire companies change their behavior just to avoid its attention. Some call it healthy competition. Others call it legalized extortion. Many economists argue it has become one of the biggest invisible taxes on modern business. Welcome to the world of antitrust consulting, corporate lobbying, and the billion-dollar ecosystem built around regulation. This is the $100 billion cartel hiding in plain sight. Level 1. The game nobody wants to play. Imagine you're the CEO of a fast-growing company. Business is booming. Customers love your product. Investors are excited. Then you announce plans to buy a competitor. The next morning, your phone won't stop ringing. Law firms, economic consultants, lobbyists, public relations firms, former regulators, everyone wants to help. Because one letter has arrived, a government investigation. Suddenly, your billion-dollar merger isn't about business anymore. It's about politics, economics, public opinion, legal strategy, and billions of dollars in professional fees. Every major acquisition today triggers an army of specialists. Lawyers analyze every document. Economists build complex market models. Consultants prepare thousands of pages of reports. PR agencies shape public opinion. Lobbyists meet politicians. Former government officials advise private clients. Entire industries now exist simply because governments review corporate deals. Here's the twist. Whether the merger succeeds or fails, most of these firms still get paid. In fact, the longer regulators investigate, the more money everyone makes. Level 2, the business of regulation. Let's take one of the biggest corporate deals in history. When Microsoft attempted to acquire Activision Blizzard for nearly $69 billion, the transaction became a global battle, not just between Microsoft and regulators, but between hundreds of lawyers. Economists, industry experts, lobbyists, competition authorities from multiple countries. The deal lasted almost 2 years before receiving approval. During that period, millions upon millions of dollars were spent, not on making better games, not on hiring developers, not on improving Xbox. Instead, the money went into navigating regulation. And Microsoft isn't unique. When Disney bought Fox, when Amazon acquired MGM, when pharmaceutical giants merge, the pattern repeats. One transaction, hundreds of professionals, thousands of billable hours, a mountain of paperwork. According to industry estimates, major mergers can generate legal and consulting bills reaching hundreds of millions of dollars. Now multiply that across thousands of corporate transactions every year. You begin to understand why this ecosystem has become so enormous. Ironically, the tougher governments become on mergers, the more valuable these advisory firms become. It's almost recession-proof. As regulation grows, demand grows with it. Level 3. Why everyone keeps feeding the machine. Here's where things become fascinating. You might think companies hate this system. Many executives complain about it, yet they keep spending. Why? Because the cost of losing is even higher. Imagine you're acquiring a company worth $20 billion. If regulators block the deal, years of planning disappear overnight. Stock prices crash, executives lose credibility, competitors celebrate, investors panic. Suddenly, Paying $100 million to improve your odds starts looking like cheap insurance. This creates a strange incentive. Every company hires the biggest law firms, the most respected economists, the best connected lobbyists. Not necessarily because they're guaranteed to win, but because nobody wants to be the executive who didn't hire them. It's similar to professional sports. The richest teams hire the best coaches, the best analysts, the best doctors, even when there's no guarantee of winning. Corporate mergers have become exactly that. An arms race. Everyone keeps spending because everyone else is spending. The result? A permanent industry feeding off uncertainty. Level 4. The revolving door. Now comes perhaps the most controversial part. Imagine spending 20 years working for a competition regulator. You investigate monopolies, review mergers, understand every loophole. You retire. Months later, a private consulting firm hires you. Your salary doubles, maybe triples. Now, instead of regulating companies, you're advising them. This is known as the revolving door, and it exists all over the world. Former regulators become consultants. Former politicians become advisors. Former prosecutors become defense attorneys. Their knowledge is incredibly valuable. After all, who better understands the rules than the people who wrote them? Critics argue this creates conflicts of interest. Supporters argue it's simply experienced professionals applying their expertise. Either way, the demand is enormous, because companies aren't just buying legal advice. They're buying insight, relationships, experience, institutional knowledge. In many cases, that's worth millions, sometimes tens of millions. This creates a feedback loop. Government creates regulation. Regulation creates complexity. Complexity creates demand for experts. Experts become incredibly valuable. The cycle repeats. Year after year. Level 5, the hidden cost we all pay. Here's the biggest question. Who actually pays for all of this? At first glance, only giant corporations. But look closer. Every extra legal bill, every consulting contract, every delayed merger, eventually becomes part of doing business. Businesses don't absorb costs forever. They pass them along. Higher prices, lower profits, fewer investments, slower innovation, sometimes fewer jobs. Now, this doesn't mean regulation is bad. Far from it. Without competition laws, large corporations could swallow rivals unchecked. Prices might rise even faster. Innovation could disappear. Consumers could lose. The challenge is finding balance. Too little regulation. Monopolies thrive. Too much complexity. Only the biggest companies can afford compliance. Ironically, that can make markets less competitive. Small businesses often struggle to hire armies of lawyers. Startups rarely have multi-million-dollar legal budgets. Large corporations do. So while regulation is designed to promote competition, the complexity surrounding it can unintentionally strengthen the biggest players. This is why economists continue debating the issue. How much regulation is enough? How much becomes too much? There are no easy answers, only trade-offs. Conclusion. The real cartel hiding in plain sight isn't a secret organization meeting behind closed doors. It's an ecosystem, a network, a machine powered by complexity. Law firms, economic consultancies, lobbyists, public relations agencies, compliance specialists, former regulators, corporate advisors. Each performs a legitimate role. Each provides real value. But together, they've built an industry worth well over $100 billion. An industry that grows whenever rules become more complicated, whenever businesses become larger, whenever governments become more involved. And here's the lesson most people miss. In business, the biggest fortunes aren't always made by selling products. Sometimes they're made by standing between buyers and sellers, between companies and governments, between opportunity and permission. The people who understand the rules often become wealthier than the people playing the game. That's why the smartest investors don't just study companies. They study incentives. Because incentives shape behavior. Behavior shapes markets. and markets shape fortunes. The next time you hear about a massive corporate merger making headlines, don't just look at the two companies involved. Look behind the curtain. Notice the armies of consultants, the lawyers, the economists, the lobbyists, the advisors. Because while everyone else is watching the billion-dollar deal, an entirely different industry is quietly making billions from the process itself. And once you see that invisible economy, you start seeing it everywhere.